What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be discussing one of my favorite countries that I've ever visited, which is Morocco. So I've been able to spend over a month in Morocco over the course of 3 visits, so I'm pretty sure that makes me an expert. No, I'm just kidding. But I know before, like the first time I went, I had a lot of questions, a lot of doubts, and I feel like a lot of people are just a little afraid, you know, maybe you have things you're not sure about, so hopefully this video makes things a little bit clearer, gives you guys a little bit more information if you guys are planning a trip there. So the first thing I would say is just to go. Honestly, I feel like there's a lot of negative, I guess, stereotypes, or people have this idea of Morocco which isn't necessarily the case. So yeah, I would just say if you are planning on going there, then don't let anyone tell you otherwise, like just do it. But yeah, so first of all, I do want to talk about transport. So basically, Morocco is actually a very accessible country, especially from within Europe. You can find very cheap flights, Ryanair, especially from Spain, from France, Italy, the UK. So chances are you will be arriving by plane. Now, when you arrive at the airport, basically your only real option is to take a taxi, unless you want to rent a car, of course. But let's say you're coming alone and you need to get from the airport to the city or the Medina, wherever you're staying. So you're probably going to need to take a taxi. And unfortunately, these taxis are quite expensive. Usually it's a flat rate. And yeah, obviously if you're by yourself, it's going to be quite expensive, anywhere from like, 10 euros upwards for, I don't know, like a 10-minute taxi ride, which is really, really expensive for Morocco. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of advice. Basically, if you can, try and negotiate or try and get some other people together with you to make it cheaper. Or if possible, you can try and take a bus if available, or sometimes you can walk a little bit further and take what's called like a petite taxi, a smaller one, which maybe is cheaper. But honestly, like if it's the first time you're arriving in Morocco, I would say sometimes it's worth to pay a little bit more just for that comfort, because you know, you don't really want to be getting lost. You don't want to be having to walk for a while, especially if the weather's hot. Yeah, sometimes it's just easier to pay a little bit more for the comfort. Yeah, in terms of getting around the cities, pretty much every city will have taxis, and this is how the locals will get around too. And it can be intimidating at first, but yeah, basically what you normally have to do is flag a taxi down. If a driver is coming to you, usually that's not a good sign. They're probably will be charging you a lot more. Just for example, things that have happened to me, like people will tell you, let's say 200 dirham, which is like 20 euros, when the price should be something like, I don't know, 3 or 4 euros. So yeah, definitely always negotiate if you can. But if you are flagging taxis down and you're taking like a petite taxi, usually it's fine. Like they will, you know, be honest, and they're not going to charge you like a crazy amount. But yeah, so those taxis, they're usually shared. So you might find like the taxi stops, you know, just on the way to pick up people on the street, which is completely normal. And then you also have grand taxis, which usually are getting from one city to another. And these are also shared as well, and you usually agree on the price before you get in, and you usually also have to pay before you get in. I mean, it depends, but yeah, usually you would pay beforehand. And you can also take these taxis if you're wanting to do like day trips, if you're wanting to visit maybe more remote areas and nature that's outside of the city, which can be good as well. And I would say always ask like locals what the prices are before you get into taxis, because yeah, like I say, they will charge tourists like an exorbitant amount. So yeah, it's good to know at least you know, like the normal prices. So even if you do have to pay a little bit more, you're not going to get like scammed completely. And then also in the bigger cities, like the public transport is decent. Like in Casablanca and Rabat, they have a tram, which is really easy, really simple. So that's great. And also in Marrakesh, I believe there's a bus. But in terms of other cities, I feel like the public transport, a lot of the time it's not very accessible. Like really, you can't take it unless you're a local. Like it's just not for tourists at all. So yeah, a lot of the time you will be taking taxis. But also a lot of the cities are walkable, especially if you're staying in the city center. Yeah, like if you have a central accommodation, usually you can walk pretty much everywhere, and I think that's the best way to see the cities anyway. And in terms of, yeah, just getting around, I found that Google Maps pretty much worked everywhere. Sometimes people on the street will offer to like guide you and say, oh, you know, you're going the wrong way, and some honestly just don't listen, just use your maps, like you'll be fine. And for traveling between different cities, so between a lot of the big cities like Casablanca, Fez, Rabat, Marrakesh, Tangier are connected by trains, which is really easy and simple to navigate. Some of the more remote, I guess, smaller cities will have buses as well. So yeah, it's pretty simple. So yeah, honestly, I would say it's pretty easy. And another thing is some people do arrive by car or van, especially if you're driving from Spain. Like if you, let's say you live in Europe and you have a car, then it's pretty easy to drive to Spain and take the ferry to the north of Morocco, which is another good option, I think. Especially if you're wanting, let's say, I don't know, to do a more adventurous route, or maybe you want to stay a long time, then that's a really good option as well. In terms of like SIM cards and phones, so you can buy it at the airport. I think it's about, in Marrakesh, I think I paid about 10 euros for like 10 gigs of data and a SIM card, which I thought was decent. You could find it probably a little bit cheaper. Usually you just have to go on the street and there's these stores that have like SIM cards and you can get one there. But yeah, I would definitely recommend getting a SIM card, especially if you're staying any longer than a few days. Like it's really not that expensive, and it's going to help you out a lot, because especially if you're in Medinas, it's so easy to get lost. So really I would be completely lost without Google Maps. Next point I want to talk about is food. So I am a big fan of Moroccan food. If you're going for a short trip, definitely try the local cuisine. So things like tagine, which is basically like I guess like a curry kind of thing. They cook it in this clay pot, which is called a tagine as well. And then couscous, obviously. So Moroccan people, they usually only eat couscous on Fridays, but if you're in restaurants, you can get it anyway. It doesn't really matter. Personally, I am vegan, which is, I'm not gonna lie, it was a bit of a challenge. Yeah, so if you have dietary requirements, it can be a little bit rough, especially if there's a language barrier. It is definitely doable, like you can make it work. So for me, I would recommend, if you're vegan or vegetarian, usually couscous is a good option. Otherwise, you can get like salads, or they have a lot of dishes that are just like beans or lentils, things like that. Otherwise, obviously, if you go to more touristy restaurants, you know, you can get you know, more like westernized, you know, vegan, vegetarian food, which obviously is going to cost a little bit more, but sometimes, you know, you got to do what you got to do. Obviously, in bigger cities as well, you find supermarkets, so you have like your Carrefour, mzyan, and things like that, so you can buy your food, and I guess that's the easiest way. I think if you don't have any specific dietary requirements, and obviously I think street food is really cool. Like I saw a lot of it, but personally for me, being vegan, you know, obviously there's a lot of things I couldn't have. But yeah, it's definitely nice to try. In terms of water, honestly, most of the towns, like I was drinking tap water and I was fine. The one place where I got a little bit sick was Fez. But other than that, I was drinking tap water pretty much everywhere. Now, obviously, if you feel more comfortable, you can definitely buy bottled water. It's really cheap as well. Like you're probably paying maybe like 50 cents or maybe like €1 for like a big bottle. Obviously, if you go to restaurants, you know, smaller bottles will be more expensive. So yeah, I would say if you are going to buy bottled water, then definitely buy like, you know, the big bottles. Oh, another thing is alcohol. Obviously, Morocco is a Muslim country, so the majority of people do not drink alcohol, and in a lot of places, alcohol is actually not allowed. Like for example, a lot of the hostels where I was staying, you were not allowed to bring alcohol. And personally, I didn't drink it all when I was in Morocco, and like I didn't have any problems. If you do really want to drink, like you can find it in touristy areas, and bars, and I think supermarkets as well, it's available. So yeah, maybe you'll find you're paying a little bit more, but it's available if you need it. In terms of the language, so obviously Arabic is the, you know, official local language there. Well, actually they speak like I guess like a dialect or a variant. It's called Darija, so it's not like your classic Arabic in, for example, Egypt or Saudi Arabia. It's a little bit different, and they also have French as well as a main language, which personally for me makes things a lot easier because I understand French fairly well. So a lot of the street signs will have Arabic and French, which makes, yeah, obviously things a bit easier. you can't read Arabic. But in the bigger cities, especially like Marrakesh, English is widely spoken, so you won't have any issues. And to the north of Morocco, like, people will also speak Spanish, which is interesting. So yeah, it's good for me since I speak Spanish as well. But yeah, obviously Google Translate will pretty much get you around if you do find yourself in a pickle. In terms of what to do, so a lot of the big cities are very historic, and I find just walking around is like fascinating and really fun. But if you want to have like specific activities or, you know, sightseeing things, you can obviously book tours. You can book them through your hotel or hostel or wherever you're staying. And if you want to do obviously specific excursions, like if you want to go into the desert, you pretty much need a tour for that. And again, it's always good to ask around for prices. I find that, yeah, the prices can vary a lot, so it's good to ask around what, you know, how much things cost, what other people are paying, just so you have an idea. Another one of my favorite things is shopping, like especially in Marrakesh. It's pretty much the mecca for yeah, markets and stores on the street, and yeah, it's just super fun. Again, you need to bargain. And you also need to bring cash as well. I don't think I discussed money, but basically I have like a Wise card, and I just yeah, I just use that and withdraw money from ATMs. Otherwise, if you have euros, it's good to bring a little bit. So when you first arrive, you can go to the airport and just exchange euros or dollars to dirham. Because yeah, you definitely do need cash. A lot of places only accept cash. The more kind of modern places, or yeah, like newer hip kind of cafes or restaurants or whatever, will accept card. But even a lot of the hostels I was staying in, I had to pay in cash. Another thing that Morocco is quite known for is surf. So a lot of people go and visit like surf camps, which is also nice as well. It's a nice affordable place, so if you want to learn to surf or if you want to go to the beach, yeah, you definitely can do that. In terms of accommodation, I pretty much stayed in hostels exclusively, and Morocco it's actually set up quite well. Like, there's a lot of infrastructure for tourists, so yeah, there's pretty much hostels in all the big cities, all the, I guess, touristy places. You'll find a lot of hostels, and they're really affordable as well, ranging, I think the cheapest was from about 6-7 euros a night to about 10 euros. You can find really nice hostels. If you have a higher budget, you can stay in like riads or hotels if that's what you're about. Also, Airbnbs works quite well. If you're traveling within a group, you can stay in Airbnbs. In terms of the weather, Morocco is in North Africa, so it is a hot country. So for most of the year, in most of the places, it will be hot. So yeah, I would probably, if you can, avoid the summer months like June, July, August. It's really, really hot. It's scorching. It can get like 40, even 50 degrees. So yeah, ideally don't go during summer. If that's the only time you can go, like, I guess you gotta do it. But just know that there'll probably be more crowds. Yeah, it'll be really hot and very busy as well, because during that time is when usually like all the Moroccan people that live outside of Morocco, they come and they visit and travel within their country. But yeah, obviously, again, if you like the beach and the coastal areas, then it could be very nice too. So the first time I went was actually in December, and I thought it was a really nice time because the weather was, it definitely wasn't too hot, but it wasn't cold either. It was like you could wear you know, a t-shirt and jeans maybe during the day, and then at night you could have like a light jacket and you'll be fine. And then the second time, I think, was end of April, May, and I remember in Marrakesh it was already quite hot, like around, I think, 30 degrees, but the coastal cities were still nice. And then this last time I came, basically end of summer, so end of August, September, which wasn't too bad actually. Like the inland cities were quite hot, like Fez and Marrakesh are about 30 degrees, which is hot but bearable. But then the coast was really nice, like the north and Casablanca, Rabat was around like 20-25 degrees Celsius, which is perfect weather, I think. In terms of what to wear, so obviously it depends on the season. Like I say, winter, it's pretty mild, but again, it depends where you go. Like in the desert, surprisingly, it can get very cold. I never went to the desert, but people told me that it was really cold when they went like in December. I think, and like, there is a difference for men and women, I will say. And obviously, being a Muslim country, it is quite conservative. As a man, you can pretty much wear whatever you want. But as, I guess, speaking from like a female perspective, I definitely would dress a little bit more conservatively. Like, again, it's each to their own. Like, I did see girls in, like, you know, dresses, shorts, whatever. I think if you are traveling with somebody else, like if you're traveling with another person, especially another guy, like, it makes things a lot easier. But if you're alone, I would recommend kind of on the more conservative end. Now, don't get me wrong, like, I was still, you know, I was wearing like t-shirts and like in hostels. When I was in the hostel, I would wear shorts, and I thought it was fine. But yeah, if I was going out, let's say in a city, I would just wear like long pants. And honestly, you can buy like long flowy linen pants, and it's fine, it's comfortable, and it's cool as well. Like, also obviously you can like buy the traditional dress as well. Like, this is a kaftan, it's actually a men's kaftan, but I don't really care. But yeah, like, you can go to the markets and you can buy the traditional clothes and you can wear that, and it's fun. In terms of the people, like, honestly, Morocco has some of the friendliest people I've ever met, and especially if you're traveling alone, people are very hospitable. I would drink tea with people, I would eat with people, even like visited somebody's house. So yeah, I would say obviously you kind of need to keep your wits about you, be careful, but also like accept random acts of kindness and hospitality. Sometimes it's good to, just be open to meeting new people and having new experiences. Lastly, I just want to discuss safety real quick. So Morocco is honestly one of the safest countries I have ever traveled to. In terms of like street crime, I felt a lot safer in Morocco than places in Europe, like Barcelona, for example. There's so many pickpockets, and even in big cities, yeah, like in France, in Italy. Yeah, I think Morocco is a really safe country. There's lots of police everywhere, especially for tourists. Like, people will look after you, like, you will be fine. The only one place that I felt a little bit less comfortable was Fez. I think there the people can be a little bit aggressive. Like, they just want to sell you stuff. They just want you to buy things or get money out of you. But in saying that, I never really felt like dangerous, like my life was in danger anywhere. I was never afraid of being robbed or anything like that. So yeah, I would say overall Morocco is a really safe country. Just be smart, and common sense will get you a long way. But yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you think of any other tips, you want to leave them down in the comments, please be my guest, marhaba. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I see you in my next one. Ciao.